I got to know who was tailgating people this morning on the way to church. Let me see your hands. You are not playing along. Listen, I've seen you all in the church parking lot. I know how you all drive. Some of you are like, did Jesus tailgate people? Because I've been doing that for years, so I guess I've just been following the Lord. No, that's not what this series is about. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But I just want to say I love you guys. I love you guys so much. And it's so good to be together in church. And, you guys came to church, and there's like 4 inches of pollen out there, and you came through it. How many of your sinuses have been under spiritual warfare for 2 weeks? Oh, my goodness. It was really bad a week ago. I walked outside. I think I turned yellow right away, and I'm like, this is too much. But you guys are here. You look extra church good today. I'm glad you guys are here, and so thanks for being here. A big shout out to first timers. Every Sunday, somebody's first time. Thanks for being here if this is your first time. A big shout out online. I want to say hey to Rick. Rick's been watching from the hospital the last few weeks. So Rick, thinking of you, praying for you, man. And a shout out also to the lady who gave us a 5-star Google review this week. Woo! Your $20 is in the mail, ma'am. No, I'm just kidding. But can we make some noise for our first timers, our onliners, and our Google reviewers? All right, that's good. Before we get into things, just a couple of things. First off, would you mind throwing up that next slide? Mom's Day is May 14th. You're welcome, okay? Listen, Mom's Day this is what I know. Everybody either had a mom, are a mom, or gonna be a mom. That's an all skate. And Mom's Day around here is super fun. And sometimes we do something big for one mom. But this year we're calling Mom's Day around here 4 moms. So we're going to do something special for 4 moms, okay? And so we have the 4 moms sweepstakes, all right? What's a guilty pleasure at the grocery store you always want, but you never buy? What's your favorite place to eat at around here? Just fun stuff like this. And moms, I don't see any mom with a camera. I see a man with a camera out. I don't see it. Come on, moms, get in on this. The 4 moms sweepstakes. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then don't miss May 14th. It's going to be a lot of fun. Moms, we're going to have mimosas for you. All right, non-alcoholic, because you are too crazy anyway. So anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. So come here for that. The other thing I wanted to say is Blessed Assurance. We sang that song. Oh my gosh, I transported back to my grandparents' church when we were singing that song. I love that song, and it kind of hit me extra special this morning because this is kind of the sad part about church and my job. We lost one of our Bay Shore members this past week, Miss Linda, who's always right here, part of the Howard family. She passed away, and so sad for Beth and Debbie, and if you guys could be praying for them this week. But the weird thing about church is I thought she has this blessed assurance that she's in heaven right now, and the family, we mourn, but we celebrate. That's not goodbye. It's just we'll see you later. And so anyway, that song hit me different this morning. Church is, man, there's an eternal impact in what's happening here. You know what I mean? And so just be praying for their family, but I'm just so grateful that Jesus gives us hope. Does Jesus give anybody hope at all? Just gives us hope. Speaking of Jesus, we're starting this new series today called Tailgatin Jesus. Now, not tailgating Jesus. No, I'm from Gumboro. So it's Tailgatin Jesus. Everybody say, Tailgatin Jesus. There it is. Now, I'm going to tell you what this is about in a second, but first, I always like to ask you my opening question, and can I ask that now? Is this the time? Is this the moment? I'm going to give you a heads up. This is going to be embarrassing to answer this question for some of you, but this is Bay Shore, no shame. You can answer this question. Parents, how many of you have ever lost your kid? Let me see your hands. You ever lost your kid? Wow. That's every parent in it. Every parent's I lost a kid. I've lost every kid the Lord's ever given me. Plus I lost my dog, my cat, my job. No, that's too much information. But I remember when I was 7 years old, my family had this pineapple pattern couch. Now, don't ask. I think my parents were really into tropical fruits or something. I'm not really sure. We had this pineapple pattern couch, and when I was 7 years old, there's this day I thought I want to take a nap. And in my 7-year-old mind, I thought, I got to take a nap behind the pineapple pattern couch. And so I crawled behind this pineapple pattern couch, and I don't know if it was the dust or the dead bugs back there or what. I'm telling you, it was the greatest nap of my entire life. It was so good. It was so good that 33 years later, I remember it. It was that good. But the real reason I remember it is because the way I woke up, it was like 2 hours later because I was just passed out. My mother, she grabbed my ankles and pulled me out from behind the pineapple pattern couch, and she was yelling. She was like, "We thought you were lost for 2 hours. We couldn't find you. The whole neighborhood thinks you're lost. Like, what were you doing back there?" I'm like, "I was just taking a nap, Mom. It's actually a really great spot. You should think about taking a nap back there." And I remember thinking like, man, she overreacted. And then 3 years ago, I've realized exactly how she felt. It was September 12th, 2020. I remember because if you haven't picked up on this, that's the day I lost my children. And so that was, for us, it was moving day. We were moving into our new house. It was the day we were moving into our house. And you guys know, I talk about my kids a lot. I love my kids. But on moving day, I was vaguely even aware I own kids. I mean, it was chaos. Like, we're moving our own pineapple pattern couches into the house. And so, like, if you ever moved in, isn't moving day crazy? Isn't it a crazy day? So we're just getting everything in the house, and we had friends over helping us, family over helping us, people I didn't even know over helping us, and all I knew is we weren't paying none of these people. So I was trying to get as much free labor out of them as possible before they realized they were getting taken advantage of and left. And so we're like in the middle of all this stuff. And then our friend Reagan said to me, she was like, "Hey, Joel, where are your kids?" I'm like, "What kids?" I'm like, "Oh," then I said to my wife, I'm like, "Babe, well, where are our kids?" And she's like, "What kids?" And that's when we realized we lost our children. And so we looked all through our new house, no kids. And listen, this is true. This was the first day that we had been in this new neighborhood. We had never met any of our neighbors before. And so the way we met our neighbors, we had to go like door to door and be like, "Hi, we're the Tices. We're moving in today, right over there." We have 2 children. We had 2 children. Are our children in your house? Because they're not in our house. Like, we don't know where our children are. Long story short, our kids had found the pond in the backyard of our neighbor's house 5 houses down, and they didn't listen to anything we said about stranger danger because that's where they were, in the backyard. And that neighbor, she's so sweet, she's still there in our neighborhood, she brought our kids back to us, and she delivered our lost children back to us. And she's thinking, "Hey, welcome to the neighborhood, you weirdos. Can't you take care of your own children, But make me feel better. One more time. Raise your hand if you've lost your children before. Let me see you. Okay, listen, you are disqualified from serving in Bay Shore Kids, but I feel good about your failures. Everybody say, lost. I tell you all that because I don't think it's just our kids who get lost sometimes. I think in life we all have moments where we feel lost. Like, we all have moments where we feel like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what direction to take. And since I don't know what direction to take, I'm a man, by the way. Guess what? I don't ask for directions. You know what I'm saying? And so we don't want to ask for directions, but we feel lost. And we can get lost like emotionally, financially, relationally, spiritually. If you've ever been to the Cheesecake Factory and looked at their menu, there's like 87 pages. I get lost. I'm like, I'm just looking for a cheeseburger, and I'm on page 907. But if you've ever felt lost before, just say lost. We all feel lost sometimes. And what's interesting about Jesus, in the Bible, Jesus is constantly running into people who are lost. Like, constantly. This Bible is like lost people central. And we get lost, and we got Google Maps. These people didn't have Google, nothing. So they're all sorts of lost. You know what I'm saying? And almost every single time, a lost person, someone who doesn't know where they're going, runs into Jesus, Jesus says the same 2 words to him. Almost every time. And we'll put this on the screen. He says, "Follow me." Hey, you're lost? Follow me. You don't know which direction to go? Hey, I know which direction to go. Follow me. Okay, in other words, tailgate me. Woo. So that's why we named this series Tailgate Jesus. Somebody remembered it, okay? Y'all, you know where I'm thinking. But good news, if you feel lost in life right now, Jesus has 2 words for you this morning. Follow me. Just tailgate me. Why? Why can we tailgate him? Because he knows the way, because he is the way. Our God is the way, He is the truth, He is the life, and we can and we should follow Him. If you kind of want to sort of believe that, just say tailgating Jesus. Listen, I've been tailgating or following Jesus for 35 years. That should age me, all right? And I was thinking about it like this week, like if I could describe what tailgating or following Jesus has meant to me in one sentence, this is what I would say, and we'll put this on the screen. Following Jesus for me has made my life better and made me better at life. Can anybody say that that's been the same for you? Like following Jesus has made you better at life and made your life better? Anybody agree with that at all? Just now I'm not saying my life is perfect. I got all sorts of problems. My spiritual gift is stressed out. But my life is so much better with Jesus in it than Jesus out of it. And I wouldn't trade tailgating Him for anything. And so every week in this series, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a Jesus story where He says to somebody, hey, you're lost? Follow me. You don't know where to go? Tailgate me. And so this morning we're going to look at a guy named Matthew's story in the Bible. And Matthew wrote the very first book in the New Testament. Anybody want to know or anybody want to guess what the book Matthew wrote is called? But you see, Matthew, this church is full of above average people. Okay. So Matthew wrote the book called, okay, all right, maybe a little bit below average, but Matthew wrote the book called, all right, and in Matthew writes about a guy named Matthew, i.e. himself, in his own book called Matthew, which seems a little bit confusing. But I just want to read to you Matthew telling his sort of I'm lost story. So this is in Matthew chapter 9, starting in verse 9. And it says this. It says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew. So Matthew's talking about himself in his own book, okay? So he saw a man named Matthew sitting at his tax collector's booth because Matthew is a tax collector. Follow me. There it is. Everybody say, tailgating Jesus. Follow me, tailgate me, and be my disciple. And Jesus said to him, so Matthew got up, and what did Matthew do? He followed him. Now, quick question. If after church today, you go over to the Aldi, or you go over to the Giant, or maybe you go to Whole Foods because you're bougie, and some random person comes up to you and says, hey, follow me. How many of you are going to follow your heart and call the cops? Anybody I'm out? Oh my goodness, I remember when Stacy and I, we were celebrating our 5-year anniversary, and we went down to Cancun to celebrate, and we were staying in this resort. It was amazing, you guys. And so one day, we're taking a walk, and, it's our 5-year anniversary, so we're holding hands. Things are romantic, my belly's full of guac. Praise the Lord for all the things that are happening. It is good. And we get to the edge of the resort, and the edge of the resort is this whole line or a fence of bushes. They planted bushes to fence you off from leaving the resort. But where we walked to, there was this one little opening in the bushes. And so I was like, babe, let's see what's on the other side of the resort. And Stacey's like, no, that's not safe. We can't do that. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's completely safe. This is Mexico. And so, true story, I shimmied through the bushes, and the moment my toe touched outside the resort, these two guys jumped out and said, hey, gringos, you want drugs? You want to party? Follow us. And I'm like, Stacy, run, it's the cartel. I was scared to death. And ever since then, if I don't know you, guess what? I ain't going to follow you. But in this story, Jesus says to tax collector Matthew, hey, follow me. And Matthew's like, okay. And Matthew starts tailgating Jesus. And I think there's two things that we can all kind of remember or learn from Matthew, lost Matthew tailgating Jesus. So we'll put this on the screen. 2 ideas. First one is this. When we tailgate Jesus, we remember to share what we love with the people we love. We share what we love with the people that we love. Now, how many of you are here for Bo Dukes' retirement party? Our worship leader that retired a few weeks ago. Who's here? Okay, yeah. How many of you remember the custom disc frisbee we got him? Anybody remember that? Okay, a lot of you didn't remember that, so we have a picture actually that Bo took. This is the custom disc. I'm very proud because not only has the Nick Lachey said my name out loud in a video, that's true, but my picture is on a frisbee. All my parents' hopes and dreams for my life have come true. Okay, this is... No, but Bo, listen, he loves disc golf. loves it. I mean, he loves his children, but he really loves disc golf. You know what I'm saying? Like, he loves disc golf. And any disc golf enthusiasts in the room? Anybody into disc golf? It's a niche sport. There was two. There's one. We had two in the last service. We had three in the whole church, all right? If you don't love disc golf or maybe you don't know what disc golf is. That was me. Apparently, it's golf using Frisbees because that needed to exist. I don't know. Bo loves it. And so a few weeks ago, I went to Bo's house, and a bunch of us were there. And he's like, hey, I have a disc golf course in my front yard. I'm like, of course you do, Bo Stinking Deuce. And he's like, I want to show you how to throw, a long-distance Frisbee. And so we all went outside, and Bo's showing us how to, throw a long-distance Frisbee and all the techniques. And I'm not kidding. He threw the Frisbee, I think it went 74 miles. I think it landed in Virginia, all right? It was just gone. And so then he was like, all right, Joel, just take the techniques I taught you, and I want you to see how far you can throw a Frisbee. Now, I'm 40 years old, guys. I throw a Frisbee, or I throw a football in the front yard with my son all the time. I can throw a Frisbee. How many of you can throw a Frisbee? It's a Frisbee. And I can throw it, if Bo can throw it 74 miles, I can at least got 73 miles in me, you know what I'm saying? And so we videoed my throw. You want to see my throw? Okay, here's the throw.
Left, right. Left, right, left, right.
This is Justin Tucker,
just do it.
His little dance that he
That's
does,
his
yeah.
little thing, yeah. Left, right, left, right.
That's really high.
The person laughing at the end of that video was my sister-in-law. And I'm like, we're family. You're laughing at me? I'm a family. Anyway, you can't really tell in that video. It looks okay at first. That Frisbee went 17 feet. It was terrible. I'm like, I got a master's degree. I can throw things. I can't throw it 17 feet. Anyway, Bo loves disc golf. And so he shared that with all of us, how to throw a disc. Because, the reason why we share what we love with the people that we love. When you go to a restaurant and you have a good meal, or you read a good book, or you see a good movie, what do? You share it. You text it. You tweet it. You Google review it. You put it out there. You share that thing. And so back to the story with Matthew, who's spiritually lost. All right, Jesus says to him, hey, follow me. Tailgate me. And Matthew does. And the very next thing Matthew does is he shares Jesus with his friends. It's in the very next verse. This is verse 10. Says this. Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many, everybody say many, tax collectors and other what? Okay, that's a tongue twister, isn't it? All right, let's do that again. Many disreputable sinners. Okay, we got any disreputable sinners in the room? Anybody at all? No. I'm just kidding. Don't point. But listen, I always point this out. I want to just break down why Matthew and his tax collector friends were labeled as disreputable sinners. And you maybe heard me say this before, but just kind of hang with me. So tax collectors in Jesus' day were Jewish people who worked for the enemy, Rome, to steal money from Jewish people. In other words, these people were traitors. All right, they were traitors. They were working for the enemy. It's basically like somebody working at Wawa but moonlighting at the Royal Farms. Can't do this, okay? And so tax collectors were thought of as so bad. They weren't even allowed in the temple to worship God. So in other words, they weren't even allowed in church. They weren't allowed to testify in the court because they weren't, thought of as trustworthy. And if you're on the Tinder app in 00 AD and you see somebody who's a tax collector, you're like, oh, I ain't swiping right on that person because they are a traitor. And the guy who wasn't even allowed in the church is the person who Jesus says, hey, you, follow me. I want you to tailgate me. And the reason that is so important is because this is a perspective that we need to know. Jesus loved people who were nothing like him, and people who were nothing like Jesus loved Jesus. Jesus loved people who were nothing like him, and people who were nothing like Jesus loved Jesus. And so get this, you got Jesus, the Jesus, all right, the one that's cross-stitched on at your granny's house, put on the wall and looks like, blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus, which isn't theologically correct, but anyway, that Jesus shows up to Matthew's house, and it is a rager. Everybody say rager. It is a party. And if you look deep in the text, you can see they are in the region of Jerusalem called Dewey Beach. It is a rager. And you know, the moment Jesus walks into a rager, people start acting weird. You know, people are trying to act sober, like, Jesus is here. You know, they're on their phone, looking at Tinder, but they're like, no, Jesus, it's the Bible app. Like, they're just like acting so weird around Jesus. And I know this because I'm just a pastor, and people act weird when I show up to anything. If I walk in the door, they're like, oh, the pastor's here, hide everything. Just like, stop talking. One of my favorite volunteers that we have in our church is Amy V. And Amy V celebrated her birthday a few weeks ago. And anyway, I'm not going to tell you how old Amy V is because Amy is married to Butch. And I'm scared of Butch, all right? But Amy is watching online right now. So can you guys just like celebrate her birthday for Amy? So happy birthday, Amy. And Amy's husband, Butch, is a good man because he scheduled a surprise birthday party or planned a surprise birthday party for Amy. And so a few days before the birthday party, Butch called me, which Butch calls me sometimes, and we just chat. And so I was, it was not out of the ordinary, but he's like, hey, Joel. And he's acting real weird. He's like, hey, Pastor Joel, Bishop, Reverend Joel. I'm like, what in the world is Butch? And he's like, you know how we're having this, party for Amy? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, there's going to be some people there who they don't know that you're a man of the cloth. And I'm like, what in the world? And so he's like, so you may hear some words that they say that you've never heard before. And he's like, and it's an 80s themed thing, so we're like maybe going to play a Spotify playlist, and there's possible there's some music that has some of those same words you've never heard before in it. And you might see somebody carrying a drink you've never seen before. And I'm like, and I love that Butch was trying to protect me, but just a spoiler alert. Listen, I have seen and heard it all. A lot of it right in our church lobby, to be honest with you. And Butch is an Eagles fan, Chris is an Eagles fan, so I'll put this in kind of Eagles terms, okay? Like, I've seen and heard it all because I have attended an Eagles game before. And when I went, my entire section, they were so drunk before kickoff, the whole section was speaking cursive. And it was just a preseason game, and so not a big deal, right? Right? Okay, not the Eagles fans. Listen, every time the Ravens scored, which we scored a lot, okay, the whole section, they were so good at cussing, they were creating new cuss words. So I know about disreputable sinners. I've been around lots of Eagles fans. You know what I'm saying? But if people act weird when the pastor shows up to anything, people act weird when Jesus shows up to this rager. But Matthew's like, hey, all right, I want you to come. I want you to meet my friends, and these are disreputable sinners. Now, by the way, have I told you all yet today that you all are disreputable sinners too? Welcome to Bay Shore, where I like to remind you every week, you're jacked. But you got to picture this. Jesus, he walks in, and Matthew's like, Jesus, look, I want you to meet my people, Jesus. I want you to meet my boys. Here, have some olives from the, not, martinis we have over there. You know what I'm saying? And Jesus eats with them. And what's crazy about this is that who you ate with in the Bible times was like who you cared about. Like, if you want to know who Jesus cared about, look at who he ate with. Right. Disreputable sinners. And that was thought of as so scandalous that the verse that Nate read this morning, Luke 15, verse 2, like this is what everyone thought about Jesus because he kind of hung out with disreputable sinners. If we can put Luke 15:2 up real quick. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, this man welcomes, everybody say welcomes, sinners and eats with them. These church people are like, this is the worst they had on Jesus. They're like, he eats with sinners. Church people, you know what I mean? Now, this word welcome, or welcomes, in the original Greek, literally translates to mean takes delight in. This is good. Did you know that Jesus doesn't just tolerate lost people, he takes delight in them? I don't know how you're acting so calm. Listen, did you know that Jesus doesn't just tolerate disreputable sinners, lost people, he takes delight in them. He takes delight in them. And so, listen, if you feel lost right now, you're in the right place. If you feel unworthy right now, you're in the right place. If you feel more comfortable at a party than in a church, you are in the right place because Jesus sent me to church today to tell you he welcomes you. He takes delight in you. Come on, somebody. He takes delight in you. And just so I can get this out there, listen, our goal's church, our church's goal, our church's goal, my goal is not to change you. Listen, changing you, that's above my pay grade. I can't change you all. This whole section, I can't change you. If your spouse can't change you, I can't change you. But I can introduce you to the only one who can change you. And Jesus is the only one who can change us. Has anybody been changed in a good way by Jesus at all? Anybody at all? Listen, he's the one who changes us. He's the one, not us. But as a church, we do have some goals to help you meet Jesus, tailgate him, and follow him because he's the one who changes us. And so I want to show you our Tailgatin Jesus roadmap. Is that okay? You want to see the Tailgatin Jesus roadmap? Here it is. Everybody say Tailgatin Jesus roadmap. All right, this is kind of our goal for you to follow the one who can change you. All right, step one at our church on the tour of the Tailgatin Jesus tour is accept Jesus. And just know this, Jesus accepts you. I already told you he takes delight in you. The question is, are you going to accept him? And what's really cool is in the last 3 weeks, 35 people have accepted Jesus in the basement. 35 people have taken stop one on the tour. And so that's amazing. So if that's you, if you're one of the 35, the next stop on the tour is for you. And that is get baptized. After we say yes to Jesus, the very next thing the Bible tells us to do is say, go public for Jesus. And listen, if you think the tailgate or the tax collectors party was wild, have you been to a Bay Shore baptism party? It is rowdy. I mean, I've seen people hanging from the light fixtures in here. I mean, it is nuts. But we got to celebrate when somebody goes public for Jesus. And so, listen, I just personally think we should have 35 baptisms next weekend. I mean, it makes sense. And if that's your next stop, listen, all you got to do is scan that QR code in the back of your seats. RSVP for your baptism. You hit the button that says, take my next step. That's you. And then we will get you plugged in and we will baptize you over here and party with you. All right, that's step two or stop two. Stop three is to take our next steps class. That is going to be on May 6th with Mr. Cotter back there. It's going to be right in this room, and it's going to be on a Saturday morning, and it's real easy what happens in that class. We basically tell you who we are, we show you who God designed you to be, and then we talk about how we can partner together to just share Jesus with Rehoboth Beach. That's the whole goal. And so again, if you want to do next steps, you can scan the QR code and jump into that. And then after that, we have the Get Involved Stop. So get involved. I don't know if you know this, but more than half of our regular attenders volunteer here. More than half. I think it's a church Guinness World Record. All right, I can't prove it, but I believe it. I think we have like 144 active volunteers at Bay Shore, and they are the best volunteers on the planet. And a lot of them are serving right now, and they would love to hear you just cheer for them because they are the best. So thank you guys back there. They're watching our kids back there. But that's one way you can get involved, or you can go and get into a Bay Shore group, or you can do Serve Day with us next Saturday. There's so many ways. Again, you scan the QR code and take my next step, and you can sign up for any of those things. And then the last stop on the tour is to bring your friends to church. Like, invite them, pick them up, bribe them with food. Kidnap them if you have to. It's for the Lord, so it's okay, you know? And we do this because we share what we love with the people that we love. And when your friends come to church, they start the journey. And maybe they accept Jesus. They get baptized. They attend next steps, get involved. And they start bringing their friends. And round and round and round it goes. And that is really what we're all about here. So maybe you're like, I know, I talked about this like 3 weeks ago. So I was like, I don't know if I should talk about this again. But, maybe you're like, you just talked about this. Why is this such a big deal to you? Because as long as there's one lost person who doesn't know Jesus, my job's not done. Our church's job's not done. You're not done. I don't know if you noticed, but we're on a rescue mission together, people. We're Navy SEALs. Turn to the person next to you and say, "You're a Navy SEAL." we rescued 35 people, and that's amazing, but we are just getting started. And so we are Navy SEALs trying to rescue people. That is our goal as a church. It reminds me of a few years ago, my dad, he said to me, he was like, Joel, you got to see the movie Hacksaw Ridge. He's like, you got to see it, son. Now, I'm going to be honest, I got to be careful because my dad's, probably watching this, but I don't really trust his movie taste a lot of times. Like sometimes when he says, you got to see it, son, I'm like, I'm definitely not going to see it, Dad. He recommended Daddy Daycare 2 to me one time. I'm like, see, this is why I have trust issues, Dad. This is why. But this was before Daddy Daycare 2. And so I was like, I'll watch it. Listen, my dad was right about that movie. That movie is so stinking good. And if you haven't seen it, it's the true story about a guy named Desmond Doss. And Desmond Doss was a conscientious objector to carrying a weapon, and he was in World War II, and he's the only conscientious objector that won the Medal of Honor. And he wasn't against like other people carrying weapons, but he had a personal conviction about it. But he wanted to be a part of, of the unit, and so he signed up. He was a medic in World War II, and so one time his whole unit was at this battle to take over Hacksaw Ridge, and the whole enemy came and like overpowered their unit, and so they had to retreat off this ridge. And so all the guys were like going down this cliff ridge, and the only people left on that ridge were the people who were injured, and then one medic, one conscientious objector named Desmond Doss. And Desmond Doss was his hurt friend's only hope. And so Desmond, it's crazy. Like you can see this in this picture. This scene is insane. People are shooting at him. There's bombs going off around him. He doesn't got a weapon. He doesn't have an army or anything. He's just grabbing his friends one by one, and he would take them to the edge of the ridge. He would wrap this rope around them, and then he would shimmy them down this ridge, and then he would run back in. And there's like bullets flying around him, bombs going off around him, and he was just grabbing person after person, and he did it all night long. And that night, true story, Desmond Doss rescued 75 of his friends off that ridge. 75 of his friends. And afterwards, they were like, Desmond, he was being interviewed, and they're like, what were you thinking? And he said, every time I will get, one of my friends down that ridge, he said, I just pray, Lord, just give me one more. Just give me one more, Lord. And then I run back in, I grab a friend, I lower him down, and I just give me one more, Lord. Just give me one more. Everybody say, just give me one more, Lord. I think that should be our new church motto. Just give me one more, Lord. Because as long as there's one lost person who doesn't know Jesus, like our job is not done. And so you should have got a card in your seat that you're probably sitting on right now when you walked in. Everybody got the orange card? If you got the orange card, wave it around in the air to help you stay awake. All right, some of you you're like, I'm in church? Why are you inviting me to church? Why is this in my seat? This is for your one. That one more, Lord, person. Like, this is for your one. The one you want to see sitting in the empty seat next to you. The one you want to see over here in the baptistry. Like, use this to invite people to church. And like I said, if they won't come, kidnap them. Get them here. And let me just tell you, like, you're so good at bringing people to our church. So good. We had the most people who've ever attended Bay Shore on Easter this year. 404 people showed up on Easter morning. Oh my goodness, 404 people. It was packed in here. And I get like social anxiety, and so my personal space bubble was invaded. During worship, my arm hair touched the arm hair of the person next to me, and I was like, what? But I was okay because I'm like, 404 people. 404 people. And you might say, church with 404 people, that's too big for me. Okay, that's too big of a church. If you think that is too big of a church, your view of God is too small. If we had 10,000 people show up next weekend, okay, two things are going to happen. Number one, Buffalo Wild Wings is probably going to start towing out y'all's cars. And we can't reimburse you because we're in a building program, But number two, if 10,000 people show up here next weekend, you know what I'm going to pray? Just one more, Lord. Just one more, Lord. Because as long as there's one lost person, our job's not done. So can we keep packing this place out? Can you guys keep bringing people? Can you keep putting people in the seats next to you? Can you guys do that?
Yes, sir.
We'll do that again. Can we keep packing this? That was very discouraging, okay? But can we keep bringing people, packing this place out? Can we do that? Yes. We can do that. Why? Because we share what we love with the people that we love. Now, that was point one, and there's 2 points, and some of you just had a heart attack. because that was kind of long. All right, the second point is real short. All right, so last point is this. When we tailgate Jesus, we remember that found people are just lost people that found Jesus. So back to the story. You got Matthew throwing the rager in the region of Dewey Beach, and it is like crazy. Like I said, you got a DJ there. He's playing the music that Butch was warning me about. There's lights strobing. There's, a guy doing a cake stand in the back or whatever. And you got Jesus right there. And guess who shows up to the rager? The Pharisees, the religious leaders. Everybody say, womp, womp. The church leadership has entered the chat. So here's what happens. Matthew 9, starting in verse 11. But when the Pharisees saw this, now what's this? Okay, listen, Jesus is at the party. He's standing next to, cake stand Kenny. When they saw that, they asked his disciples, why? Why did your teacher eat with such scum? Okay, so these religious leaders are like, oh, I got my stuff all buttoned up. I'm all good. Okay, can you imagine a religious person thinking that? That was sarcasm. Anyway, when Jesus heard this, them criticizing the disreputable sinners, which, by the way, if I hear that, I want to punch somebody in the throat. But Jesus is better than me, so he doesn't do that. He's calm. And he said, listen, Pharisees, healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do. Then he added, and he's talking to the people who know the Bible better than anybody. He's like, now go and learn the meaning of this scripture, guys. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. In other words, you guys have perfect church attendance. You memorize the whole Bible. You tithe every single week, but you don't have mercy, and mercy is more important than all that other stuff. Woo! He says, for I have come not to call those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. Everybody say, those who know they are sinners. Have you noticed that it's way easier to be around people who know they need grace than people who forget they need grace? You know what I'm saying? And Jesus is like, if you tailgate me, if you follow me, you're going to know you need grace. And so you're going to give grace, because found people are just lost people who found Jesus. We're no better than. We're just rescued. We're just rescued. But let's be real. Have you ever been judging somebody in the middle of judging them? You had a light bulb moment and you remembered you've done that too? Has that ever happened to you? Is it just me? I'll end with this story. A few weeks ago, I got the worst text you can get. It's the worst text any married person can get. You want to see the text? Okay, here's the text from my wife, my smoking hot wife. This is our minivan that Stacy took to the demolition derby. So she wrote, so a little thing happened this morning. I hit one of the wooden things in the development. Sad face. Now, guys, I'm a pastor. I'm a man of the cloth. So when I got this, wasn't my first reaction to be like, oh, glory to God, she's safe. She's good. Oh, this is no big deal. I'm so grateful. I'm going to make a donation to the bridge right now. I'm just like, is that what I did? No. I got this. I was laying in bed and I was like, ugh. Then I immediately went to our auto insurance, thing, and our deductible is $2,000. I'm like, ugh. And so in my mind, I just imagine money on fire. Just burning. And then I did the most mature thing I've ever done in the 15 years we've been married together. I did what a therapist would do. I took a breath. I don't think I've ever taken a breath before I reacted in my entire life. So I took a breath. And when I took a breath, oxygen went to my brain. And I remembered two things. Okay, first thing I thought is, well, at least it's not my car. Woo! High five all around. The second thing that went through my mind is I remembered that the Sunday before that, when we were leaving church, I was, pulling out on the Route 1 South and right by the Chick-fil-A, and somebody took the corner a little too fast and may or may not have hit the curb out there. And did I text my wife about that? No, I didn't. She's just finding out about that right now. You know what I'm saying? And listen, I know if I start criticizing her, I'm going to run into something again. Isn't that true? And so I wrote her back. I was like, no big deal, babe. Not a worry. I'm glad you're okay. They put those things in development too close to the road anyway. Ain't your fault. And she, in a second, she hearted it. And then she wrote back in all caps, I love you, babe. And then we started doing some steamy stuff in there, all right? And I'm not even going to tell you about that. But listen, I'm not a perfect driver. I mean, I'm better than most of you all, but I'm not a perfect driver. But remembering that I'm not perfect made me act different. I gave grace because I know I need grace. That's Jesus' whole point when he was talking to these Pharisees. He's like, listen, you just need to know, you need to give grace because you're going to need grace. The amount of grace or judgment we give is the amount of grace or judgment we get. And so I just think, isn't it true that you gravitate towards people who give grace? Isn't that you want to be around people like that? I think a church full of grace givers, because we know we're grace receivers, will fill up so fast. And so I just want to end by reading to you who Bay Shore is. Is that okay if I just read a couple things about who Bay Shore is? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. I was going to do it anyway, but thanks for your answer. Who is Bay Shore? We will lead the way in showing grace over judgment in this basement. Who is Bay Shore? We will be a place filled with disreputable sinners because we know we are disreputable sinners too. Who is Bay Shore? We will be a place where no one, including the guy on the stage, believes they're better than anyone else. We just believe that Jesus makes our life better, and it's him who makes us better at life. Who is Bay Shore? We are a church that never forgets that found people are just lost people who found Jesus. Who is Bay Shore? We will always do anything short of sin to reach people nobody else is reaching. And as long as there is one person left that doesn't know Jesus, our job's not done. That is who we are. That's who we are. And that's why we want you to tailgate Jesus with us. And so, again, can we keep filling this place up? Can we do that? Can we keep giving people grace who may not deserve it, but we realize we need grace too? Can we keep doing that? I think we should do that because we share what we love with the people that we love. And we remember, found people are just lost people who found Jesus. And when you know that, it changes everything about how you act, and it changes everything about who you are. Because Matthew, the tax collector, the disreputable sinner, he ended up writing the first book in the New Testament and being one of Jesus' closest friends because Jesus loved to be around people who are nothing like him. I want to be a church like that. Let me pray for you guys. Jesus, I just love seeing how you handle people like Matthew, because I think people like Matthew are people like us. We're all messy. We all have stuff. And, you know, you said to Matthew, the one who wasn't allowed in church, you picked him out and said, hey, would you follow me? Would you tailgate me? God, that inspires me. And I love what Matthew did. He just brought you right away to meet his friends. And he did that because we share what we love with people we love. And so, God, I just pray as a church, you'll help us embody who Jesus was in this text. And I pray that you'll also help us to bring people here. I pray you'll fill this place up. If 10,000 people show up here next week, we're still going to pray for the one who's not here. That's who we are. And God, I just love that you put us on this mission. I just love that you're changing lives in here every single week. And I pray for those who have to take their next step of getting baptized or going through next steps or whatever that is. I pray you'll give us the courage to do that so we can celebrate where people are on that journey. And Jesus, we love you and we believe in this. In Jesus' name, we all said, amen. Amen. Amen.